Hey everybody, Chris Thunder Laser, and what we're going to cover on this video is setting up your camera on your Aurora 8. Now, there's a couple things that you're going to need. You're going to need the USB that came with it so that you can load the profile for the cameras. Each lens will have a different profile from that USB. You're going to need some type of material that will mark easily. There's some of the settings in Lightburn that aren't available yet to adjust your frequency and your pulse if you have those on your laser. If it's a MOPA or if it's just a regular fiber, we don't have those controls, so we're kind of limited to what we can do this on. I'm using some scratch pad paper. Looks like this. You can order it online, relatively inexpensive, really cool to do photos and stuff like that on, so if you want to have this ready to go. You will need to have the machine on. You will have to use your autofocus, which is your forward red dot, so focus to the material. And another thing that you will want to do is adjust the focus of that camera when you have the material on the bed. So just like a focus on a standard camera, you can make it blurry or you can bring it into focus. We are just turning the lens right or left and fine-tuning the focus so it's as clear as possible on the bed and on the screen. Other than that, let's go over to Lightburn and show you how to load the correct files for each lens for the camera. The first things we're going to do when we get into Lightburn is make sure that we have the proper device selected. And what I mean by that is that we should have created a device for each lens. When we built the devices for our Aurora, we built a device for each lens. So this one that I have selected here is my Thunder 100 watt with a 160 millimeter lens. Now the important part of this is we're picking the saved camera profile that goes along with the lens. So in the cuts and layers window that you have up here in the top right is typically the same window where you will have the camera feed. So if it's not there, we're going to go to our window and find camera control. Click it and it should populate in this window or somewhere. I like to have it in here because I don't use it that often, so it's hidden otherwise. Clicking on camera control, it shows up for me right now and it may show up for you, but what we really want to do is right click. Whatever we do not run the dot calibration for the lens. This is why we are loading this file. It's already calibrated. Again, do not run the dot calibration. And then import camera settings. So regardless of if it shows up or not, it may not be calibrated for that lens or for the camera that we're working with. So make sure that you have your USB drive inserted into your computer, and let's go over to our Thunder USB. We're going to expand the file tree, and this may not be the same for everybody. Every once in a while they do a different format of the file structure here. So just look for the calibration file for camera. We will expand that level of the tree, and we should see 3 different folders or files for Lightburn for our cameras. And each one is dependent on which lens we are using. And as we already discussed, I'm using the 160. If you have multiple lenses, you're going to repeat this process while you are in that device. So I'm in the 160, I'm going to select the 160, and I'm going to open. Once it's open, we should be able to select it from the drop-down list here, and this is our camera. It's probably going to be similar, if not identical. It's going to be the 5A and then followed by some numbers. So I'm selecting that camera, and now we can see that it is there, it is working, and if you really want to, this might be a good opportunity to expand this window and check your focus. If you want to, you put something down there that you'll be able to see and fine-tune that focus. And you know, as I look at it, I can clearly read the lettering, I can see the photos, everything seems to be very clear. So that is good. If it's not on yours, then just give it a turn. It is very, very picky. You know, a couple quarter turn or something like that could actually make it go out of focus one way or the other. So just turn it slowly and give the camera a chance to update or refresh. All right, I'm going to put this window back to where I want it. Shove it over here. Okay. At this point, we need to run the camera alignment test. And I'm right-clicking again in the camera window and coming down here, clicking the Calibrate Camera Alignment. Now, this is where we're going to need our material. You have to select your camera first, then click Next. And I'm going to keep these settings the same, and this is where I mentioned earlier that you may want to find a material that will easily mark, because we don't have control over our frequency or our Q pulse on our fiber lasers and our UV. We have messaged them, and they will probably be adding that to the test feature or the calibration feature. I know they're reworking some of this stuff. But for right now, I'm actually going to turn down the power a little bit because I know what I'm working with. In fact, I may go, yeah, I'm going to keep that 500, I'm going to keep this 500, and I'm just going to make my powers 40. I am working with a 100-watt laser. Lightburn is automatically going to scale this based off of the lens size or the working area size. So we're going to use this, and I'm going to hit frame. Now, as I am framing, we can see that it is actually showing the image of the 4-point pattern that Lightburn's going to engrave. If I want to, I can do just the bounds, and I can see that box. And that's the area that it's going to do the test in. If you want to save, you could always adjust a little bit like so. But all right, I'm going to now come back to Lightburn, and I'm going to hit the start button. Again, make sure that you focus, make sure that your laser is on. I'll refocus again just in case. Everything is good. And close your lid. We're going to keep it open for the sake of this video. And hit start. Okay, that is done. Let's go back into Lightburn and show you how to calibrate. All right, so it's finished. We'll hit the close. Then we will click next. And now it wants you to capture the image. Sometimes it will show up here, sometimes it won't. Click capture image, it should populate. Okay, there we go. We can see our 4-point grid. Basically our pie shapes where we're going to pick the crosshairs on the next part of this test. There we go. Okay, so if we follow the directions here, it's saying click marker 1, which we can see in the top left corner. We're going to zoom in as close as we want, and we're going to double click in the crosshair, just like so. If you don't feel like you got it accurate enough, you can hit undo last, zoom in again, and just try to get that as accurate as possible. This is tuning the accuracy of our alignment of the camera and the work area. Double click. Now it wants to go to marker 3. Double click. And finally marker 4. Perfect. Now we can click next. All right, it says that we're finished. And at this point, the window should update, and it should give you the option for an update overlay, where you will see an accurate representation of the test and the work area. I like to run a couple of tests to make sure that the alignment is accurate, and if I need to adjust a couple things, I will. So I'm going to go into my graphics, and I'm going to select one of my Thunder logos. And it is quite large, so we're going to shrink it down quite a bit. Change it to a color that we know will work. All right. Camera control. Let's zoom into our working area. And I'm going to put this right inside this middle circle. I like to work in the center after I do these tests, just because I know optics for cameras and stuff like that, and as you veer off towards the edges, you kind of lose accuracy. So knowing that, I try to work in the center whenever I use a camera. All right, so part of this is to see how accurately it places it, you know, scaling wise and all that. So I have this in there. I'm going to come into my cuts and layers, make sure I have it at a decent speed and power. It's still working with the same speed and power that we had before. I am quite aware that that was plenty of power for that. Okay, I'm going to give it a little bit more LPI, just so I can see it clearly. And okay. All right, I'm going to hit next. And start. Okay. We'll close that out. We're going to go to our camera control again, and we're going to update the overlay to see how accurate that was. So this is actually pretty darn good. I may just do a slight shift. As you can see here, there is a -3 or -0.3. Let's see, that's good. That's a little too much, so maybe I do a 0.1, but this is just fine-tuning the accuracy in this position. -0.1. All right, I'm not going to touch it any further. That is very, very accurate. I'm going to hit save to save that. And now what I'm going to do is remove this piece of paper, and I'm going to throw a coin on here. I'm going to throw 2 coins on here, and we're going to update our overlay. So after updating the overlay, we have the 2 coins there, and what we need to do now is kind of take our graphics, which I'm going to just throw in a TL for Thunder Laser on this coin, and another one on the other coin. And this is kind of how the workflow would go. And the nice thing about it is you don't have to worry about positioning. You can kind of just see where stuff is and go from there. Now, one of the things to note is you're throwing new material on there that is a little thicker than the piece of paper that we were using before. So make sure you autofocus again. I am going to change some of these settings. Let's bring this up to 200, oops, 200, 100, and let's raise the power a hair. Okay, so let's take a look and see how well our positioning is on these 2 coins. I'm going to click Start, and then as long as I select both images, which let me just double check, because I have cut selected graphics on, I only want to cut or engrave whatever I select. Now I have both. Click Start. And looking at our coins, I am engraving on both of them right in the middle, kind of exactly what we wanted. We can choose how we want to view that, the boundary or the red dot outline overlay here. but that's the way I want to see it. Since I am doing two different ones, I wanted to see the contour of both. If I switched over to just bounds, kind of difficult for me to see what's going on. So I like to do the contour for that so I can see both images. All right, let's see how well it turns out. All right, all done. All right, back here, let's do an update update overlay. Zoom in. Man, there you go. My settings were off a little bit, but I don't think you can get much more accurate than that. And there you go. That's how we do it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to support, but I hope this helped and got you going with your camera and everything worked out flawlessly, kind of like it did here.